Welcome to the Live Up Podcast, where we rewatch the movies from our youth to see if they live up. Quick note on how this will go. We will review, discuss, and score the movie in question to see if it lives up to us now as adults and whether it would live up to kids today. I'm Jess Latterman.
And I'm Amanda Treat. On today's episode, we have done 39 episodes and have not reviewed a single Mel Brooks movie. So today, we are jamming radars and we're combing the desert. Are we taking this too literally? May the Schwartz be with you for our 40th episode. It is 1987's Spaceballs.
Very nice.
Jess, what is your history with Spaceballs?
So I don't know. It's one of those movies that's just always been with me. I don't have a memory of watching it a lot as a kid, but I know I did. My only specific memory, I'm pretty sure I watched this in college. I might have watched it with you, but I'm not.
Senior year?
Maybe. I think we did watch it together. I know I watched it when I was younger because I think it was my introduction to satire. I mean, I guess Airplane was too. But unlike Airplane, where we discussed we had not seen 0 Hour, the movie, for Spaceballs, obviously I've seen Star Wars, I've seen Alien, I've seen Jaws and all those things. So it was my first satire movie. I just have no idea when I started it. It's just always been there. It's like a part of the fabric, I think, of our generation that quotes this movie all the time.
Same experience. I have no idea when I saw this movie.
Really?
And I think child me, my brain merged it with the Star Wars trilogy.
Really?
So, like, all of the scenes in this are just part of Star Wars
weird.
too. Somehow this movie got a PG rating despite all of the swearing and penis jokes.
I am so surprised because
probably saw it as kids.
Right. I did not watch Airplane when we did that episode. I did not watch that with my kids because I kind of knew better. And I think it was rated R or PG-13 or something. I don't know. But then I was like, how is this PG? Like, how is that?
No idea. It's been cited as one of the few PG rated movies that has a F-bomb in it. Or more than one F-bomb, if I recall. Along with Beetlejuice and Caddyshack, I think.
Oh, Caddyshack's a good one.
Very short list. I just have this vision of kid me sitting there watching this, thinking it was Star Wars and having the Dora the Explorer experience every time they broke the fourth wall. You know, right at the beginning, they're like, we're saving planet Spaceballs and destroying planet Druidia. Everybody got that? I picture kid me being like, yeah, got it. So I have no idea how many times I've seen this, but you know what? I still laugh at Pizza the Hut.
Yeah, I don't. I had to have been
stupid. It's so
stupid.
I love it.
My kids thought it was kind of funny too. Pizza the Hut. I mean, it's such a direct, and they get the joke now. Like Jabba the Hutt, Pizza the Hut. They get it.
Somewhere in the ether, we all have been injected with Spaceballs and can quote it, but I bet none of us remember how this movie ends. Jess, would you like to give us a plot summary of Spaceballs?
Sure. Mostly, it's a dick joke-laden satire of Star Wars. Yoda and his Oompa Loompas live in the desert but know the ways of capitalism kind of thing. That's your satire description. For those who don't remember whether there was a plot at all, the bad planet is running out of oxygen, so President Scroob hires Dark Helmet and his goons to kidnap the princess of the good planet with air, and then the princess dad hires Lone Star to save the princess. That's the actual plot, but it's really just Star Wars with dick jokes.
Yeah, Star Wars with dick jokes is the perfect log line for this.
Yeah, log line. That's what I'm going for lately.
Summarized.
Yeah.
So I did my nerdy notes research on this. Spaceballs obviously is a parody of Star Wars, which apparently when it came out, everyone was so super sick of all the Star Wars references that it kind of dinged this movie a little bit. Oh. Yeah, I mean, they'd released all three of, Star Wars. So much merchandising. So yeah, people were just kind of over it, even though they had all the action figures and all the lunch boxes and just the merchandising that they parody in this movie is spot on. Siskel and Ebert both gave this kind of like a meh, it's funny at times, a little unbalanced, but good-hearted, except we're so sick of Star Wars that we really didn't need this movie right now.
It's kind of ironic though, because Star Wars just supercharged now. I mean, the merchandising is now completely at a whole other level. There's entire series about different characters. I mean, that's kind of actually funny. If they thought the merchandising was too much in 1987, I mean, good Lord.
Yeah, what do we think of Spaceballs now? My God. So Spaceballs also has touches of parodies of Star Trek, Aliens, The Wizard of Oz, Jaws, Planet of the Apes, and even a little bit of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. All good, pulling from multiple sources. Did okay at the box office, but overall the critics kind of gave it a meh. But of course, now it's a cult classic.
Yeah, it's definitely a cult classic. It's, I think, up there is like one of the top ones, I think, for us elder millennials or people maybe slightly older than us, Gen X.
So another interesting thing about this, despite it being a little past peak Star Wars, George Lucas saw the script before they shot it, really, really liked it, and gave Mel Brooks access to all of the industrial light and magic effects that they used on Star Wars. Like, that's his company.
That's awesome.
That's why the sets and the models look
they
really
do
like they're in the Star Wars universe, because they are coming in with a side-off from George Lucas. And if you look at the space diner at the end, the Millennium Falcon is actually parked in the
I missed that.
where they're going in. Yeah, it's super subtle, but that's the actual Millennium Falcon model.
That's awesome.
That parking lot.
I did not notice that, but I did notice that it was like particularly, I assumed it was with permission just because it was just so close.
So the only restrictions George Lucas gave Mel Brooks for this was he did not want Lone Star to look like Han Solo or Luke Skywalker, and instead they modeled him after Indiana Jones.
I did notice that.
Kind of a, F you. You didn't say we couldn't do Indiana Jones.
So we're going to do that one. So my kids wouldn't have picked up on that, but I totally was like, oh, he's dressed like Indiana Jones.
Yeah, the leather jacket.
The leather jacket.
Yeah,
he kind of has the same
that vibe.
Hair going on. And, you know, for my kids, like or kids these days, if they've seen Star Wars, that's kind of enough for them for this movie in terms of what they're able to watch. I still had to explain the Alien and the Planet of the Apes and Jaws references because they haven't seen those.
So then the other restriction George Lucas put on this for Mel Brooks was he is not allowed to sell any merch.
Oh, really?
Yes, because he was worried if they did parody action figures that they would cut into the Star Wars merch revenue because they would look exactly like
that's funny
Star Wars. Yeah, all those t-shirts and lunchboxes that Yogurt holds up in that scene, like I really want some of that stuff, but they've never been allowed to sell.
I mean, you need a Barf action figure, why not?
I want the Spaceballs the movie t-shirt. That would just be fun to wear around. I know they make knockoff copies of that, but they never officially
that is really funny.
However, there is Spaceballs, the book, that came out simultaneously with this movie, and it was written by R.L. Stine, who wrote all of those like creepy books, Goosebumps.
Oh,
we're a little bit too old millennials for peak Goosebumps, but R.L. Stine wrote Spaceballs, the book.
Oh, okay.
In collaboration with this.
That is not the merchandising I would think goes with this movie, but okay.
It's not. There was also a 2008 Spaceballs, the animated series.
Oh, really?
And they brought some of the actors back to do the voices again. And then I read that as of June 2024, so a few months ago, there is finally a Spaceballs sequel in development. Something to do with Josh Gad.
Oh.
I don't know what character.
I assume he would take over for John Candy.
One of the main,
right?
I mean, it's a sequel, so maybe he's a whole new character, or maybe he's just a talking snowman. Who knows?
I mean, so this is interesting. So I mean, at first my reaction to that is a big old eye roll, but Star Wars as a franchise has evolved, right? Over time. There's been a shit ton more movies and characters and series and merchandising. And then I think just generally humor and satire has evolved. So you could actually maybe do an even funnier version of Spaceballs.
There's a way to do it.
I think there is.
This also might be a cash grab. Mel Brooks signed off on this whole thing, so let's see what they do. We're hesitant because they keep remaking our childhood, or like making sequels to our childhood favorites. We're gonna have to talk about Beetlejuice at some point.
Yes, we do.
Not right now.
Okay. Ghostbusters they've made.
Yeah, I know. Watering down our childhood in a way that just is not living up.
But, you know, one could argue for this, there's a whole other generation who might not ever even be aware of the first Spaceballs, who are very aware of Star Wars and all the franchises, like series that go with that.
That's true.
So in some ways, you could even just like come out, you don't even have to call it Spaceballs 2. I mean, I think kids and teenagers might actually flock to it
I mean, if you see Spaceballs young enough, like me, you just put it somewhere in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, just stick it in there. Yeah.
Like Luke and Leia and Hans are over here fighting, and meanwhile, there's this planet trying to steal the air from their neighbors, and comedy ensues.
Comedy ensues. Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about the Spaceballs, which I forgot until I rewatched this. Spaceballs are people.
I don't even think that
They're
I got
a planet. They're a people. I just thought it was a funny name for a movie, but there are people referring to themselves as Spaceballs.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
So, So our first Spaceballs person, the main character in my mind, even though this is supposed to be a love story adventure, but like, let's look at the bad guy here. Dark Helmet, played by Rick Moranis.
He's the star.
Is the winner in this movie.
Absolutely.
He's so good.
And in my memory, even though I was saying earlier I don't really remember when I first watched this, I don't even know if I remembered that Lone Star was a character, but I certainly remembered Rick Moranis. Like, he was the star in my mind for this.
He is playing such an insecure dork with like the funniest clothes.
The worst clothes.
Love it so much. Like the giant helmet, and like he has a sort of necktie design, but also kind of looks like a dick on his chest.
I think it's supposed to look like a dick. Yeah.
When they go out to the desert, now he's in a giant safari hat. And of course, I pulled up the script, and the original way they designed it didn't work out, obviously, but they wanted Dark Helmet to be almost a little person.
Okay.
And it was just a 4.5-foot helmet with feet sticking out, so it almost would look like a turtle or something.
That's kind of funny.
But instead, we've got Rick Moranis, who knocks it out of the park.
He does.
He's improving a bunch of these scenes.
Oh, is he?
I always love the scene, even though it like is questionable, but found out that he just improv the whole scene with the action figure dolls.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, oh no, kiss me. Like, they just handed him those, and they're like, let's pretend Dark Helmet is obsessed with the princess and acting it all out with the action figures and just go nuts. He just made that whole thing up on the spot. Some of the dialogue in there is not dialogue, it's him just playing dolls.
It got a laugh out of my kids because
Yeah.
if they could see why it's funny, they got the satire that he's basically playing with the merchandise from the movie. And then it sort of descends into creepy, but that's okay. I mean,
It's creepy, but it fits with his insecure dork villain.
Yeah. And the costumes, I love the safari hat because the safari hat has like a little like window for his face, if you will, like within the hat. It's very funny.
Yeah, he looks like a hamburglar from McDonald's.
He does.
Wearing that safari hat.
It's great. It's like he's trying to drink coffee with the helmet, and it's, you hear the gurgling noises. The physical comedy of Rick Moranis and the costuming still lands, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
He also, it wasn't in the script, and he said to Mel Brooks, hey, when the helmet is closed and you can't see my face, I need to have a totally different voice. And like, if you could give it a deep James Earl Jones, or even he, I think, asked for someone with a deep voice and an African accent just to parody Star Wars so much further. Not that James Earl Jones has an African accent, but that he just wanted it to be so completely off. And then they lift the screen up and it's like, hi, I'm a little dork under
Yeah,
here.
it works.
So I love Rick Moranis in this. And you're right. I got the DVD out of the library again.
Oh, of course you did. Yeah.
Go Boston Public Library. He's on the cover. Lone Star and Princess Vespa are nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, he's like perfectly
they're the
cringy.
cover.
I mean, he's an inept Darth Vader. I mean, it's funny, and like his thing, like unlike, Darth Vader could choke you with his fingers from afar, Rick Moranis like zaps somebody in the balls.
Yeah, he has like a castration.
Essentially. And then for the rest of the movie, every time somebody fucks up, they just immediately cover their balls.
Cover their crotch.
Yeah. He's like perfectly cringy, but it kind of still lands, I'd say, for the most part.
He gives off the vibe of a boss who doesn't actually know what he's doing, but is trying to project full confidence. It's like The Office in a way.
Yeah, he totally is like
he's the inept boss.
Yeah.
I do love they let him break the fourth wall a lot. So
Yeah.
he's talking to the camera, or they have that whole scene where they're using their instant cassettes to find the location.
That's kind of funny.
Lone Star and Vespa, and getting into a whole, it's almost like a who's on first situation. Where's now? Now is now, sir. Like,
Yeah. And we've seen this before. We saw that in the Muppet movie, but
Yes, Mel Brooks claimed that he thought this was the funniest bit and thought he invented it, but it's literally in the Muppet movie, which Mel Brooks was in, where they take the script of the movie and use it to find the location of the other characters. So maybe subconsciously he forgot.
I mean, it's still funny. I thought it was a little funnier in the Muppets,
it's funny.
But yeah.
So around Dark Helmet, there's a number of just like silly characters who are also on the bridge of this ship pretending to be very serious.
Very serious.
We have Colonel Sanders. I still like the line, like, what's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken?
Yeah.
Like, that just is so stupid, but like makes me happy that they had that in this movie.
Yeah.
You have the assholes surrounding him.
I thought the assholes bit was pretty funny. What I found funny about the asshole bit, so the assholes are like, this asshole is the surname. So you get a lot of the jokes out of it, and it's in and out with the joke. They don't overdo it. So it's like, who's the asshole who's in charge of this? And I'm surrounded by assholes, and it's funny.
Who on the ship is an asshole? And they all put their hands up.
It's kind of funny.
There's also, I'll just touch on him really quickly, because the second he showed up, I was like, oh my God, I love the sound effects guy. Michael Winslow is the radar technician. I remember him in Police Academy. Like
that's what he was in.
He could make any noise. Yeah. And he's the one who's telling them that the radar has been jammed when they literally throw a thing of jelly.
Mm-hmm. It's raspberry jam. Yeah.
It's raspberry. But he can make all those like beeping and like fun bleep noises. He like made it my childhood. I just remember that guy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a crazy circus but like very formal looking guys wearing ping pong balls for helmets.
The costuming makes it funny. I mean, the giant ball helmets are a little funny. Yeah.
So those are the bad guys in this movie, but let's talk about the good guys. They travel in pairs, and let's start with Lone Star and Barf, played by Bill Pullman and John Candy, respectively.
Just saying Barf, it's funny.
I'm so glad John Candy's back on this podcast.
I know.
Missed him.
Yeah.
It's been almost a year.
It was just for Home Alone, right? That's all he's appeared so far.
I think that's all he's been in
we gotta correct that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So I genuinely like the two of them.
They're funny.
You know, it's a buddy comedy. They're just floating around in space in a Winnebago together.
It's just so silly. I mean, and like my kids still liked Barf. I mean, John Candy is like, him and Rick Moranis were the best parts of this movie for me. I mean, John Candy is funny. I mean, he's just an oversized dog, and that it could get dumb, but I actually think he's not dumb.
He is a
He's a mob.
He is a half man, half dog. He's his own best friend.
That explanation still cracked me up, actually.
Yeah, no, he rolls in and just says things that sound so absurd with such a straight face, but very cheerful, because he's supposed to be part golden retriever, apparently. He's just happy. He's just happy.
Just happy. I could have even used more of him, to be honest.
Maybe, yeah. No, he's great. And then I actually thought Bill Pullman, this is one of his first movies.
Oh, really? That's funny.
I thought he's really good in this.
Yeah, he plays he's basically the straight man. So he's basically the Stryker character, the Stryker from Airplane.
He's an excellent parody of Han Solo and Indiana Jones, apparently. He gives off the bachelor vibe. Yeah. He's there to do a job. He's all about the money, but you can see there's kind of like a heart under there, and he's just kind of like idiot man-child charisma. I don't know.
Yeah.
A better way to describe it.
I think idiot man-child charisma is a good one. I mean, I think he doesn't bring much to it, but I think that's the point. Same as like Stryker doesn't bring much to it either. People are just funny around Stryker in Airplane. So I think Bill Pullman's kind of the same way in this as Lone Star. So if folks don't remember, he's also like, his character's on a quest to find his heritage, sort of. And then you find out he's a prince in the end, so he could marry the princess. But nobody really cares by that point.
Which, by the way, his final outfit in this movie.
Oh my God.
Just like chef's kiss. That was ridiculous. Kind of a pirate outfit, but like all kind of formal.
Or a formal, like a black tie pirate.
He's a formal space pirate.
Formal space pirate. Even my kids were like, "What is he wearing?" At the end,
it's just what a space prince wears.
If a space prince is going to get married, he's going to look like a formal space pirate, apparently.
Whoever did the costumes for this movie just must have had so much fun. Like, how ridiculous can we make this outfit? Love it, love it, love it.
So to me, like, Lone Star doesn't have any iconic lines, though. Like, right? Like, he doesn't really have an iconic line.
Yeah, because he's really the Luke Skywalker here. You're right. He is the straight man, and there's a bunch of characters going on around him. He's got a couple of like silly lines, but nothing that is one of those quotable Spaceballs iconic lines. You know,
he doesn't deserve to be on the cover of the DVD, and that's no offense to Bill Pullman. It's just that it's Rick Moranis,
and he wasn't.
Yeah,
so there you go.
There you go.
I forgot though, and we'll talk about Princess Vespa in just a moment. He and she have sort of this love story going on, sort of.
Yeah.
And they have such an Overboard vibe for me in this movie.
Yeah.
Now that I've seen Overboard.
Yeah.
The way they're fighting and at each other's throats, and she's just being like rich and pushy, and he's ready to throw her off the ship. I mean,
she has all her luggage.
I liked that. Yeah, that he was pushing back on her, but then it was kind of like, ooh, there's some tension building here. Like, I actually thought that was, for a comedy, a reasonable love story. Like, just enough of it, because we don't actually want this to be a romantic comedy. No,
it's not the point. Even my Isaac, who's 7, was like, at some point, he goes, I think they like each other. I could tell.
Ooh.
I know.
Excellent.
But I don't think he cared either way. I don't think my daughter cared either way. Yeah, no, good read.
No, that's the thing. Like, you don't really want them to get together, but like, it's cute that they do, I guess. It had Overboard vibes more than like I think you're right. Star Wars, where they don't get together at the end of that movie. Thank God, because they're siblings, twins even. So yeah, I like the two of them floating in space, being all broy in a Winnebago.
Yep.
So then we have another pair. We have Princess Vespa.
I just thought of this. Are they in pairs because of balls?
I don't think so, but maybe.
Maybe. Anyway, I'm going to edit this out. Go ahead.
Leave it in.
It just like occurred to me. I was like, wait a minute. Are the characters in pairs because they're balls? It's Spaceballs.
You're overthinking it, but also I think this movie has so many dick jokes that your brain has just been infected by it.
I think so. Ironic. This is when I remind people I'm the lesbian of the podcast. All right. Anyway.
Yeah. She's thinking about balls.
Thinking about balls. I was like,
thinking about balls.
Just had some sort of deep balls revelation on this podcast.
Right when we went to talk about the two ladies, too. My God, what has happened?
I'm canceling myself.
Oh, so we have Princess Vespa of Druidia and her lady-in-waiting robot droid, Dot Matrix, played respectively by Daphne Zuniga and Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers, rest in peace.
Yep.
She was, I give her a pass, even though half her lines in this movie aren't funny. Like, she's just always funny. I love some Joan Rivers.
I always have been a fan of Joan Rivers, actually. I think she's funny. I almost wish that she wrote her own stuff here, because she didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, so she plays basically C-3PO. She's sort of supposed to be a stick in the mud female version of C-3PO. She has some good lines. The whole, like, she's the virgin police, or her virgin bell has to go off.
And I feel like that, by the way, is a Mel Brooks trope. That shows up in so many
does
movies,
it?
like Robin Hood Men in Tights. There's a lady in waiting who's just like virgin alarm, not virgin alarm.
I think that's what
like,
they call
have,
it
like,
here.
A chastity belt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets old, actually, and I had to awkwardly explain to my kids what that meant. But that's
what a virgin is,
or just like why that's funny.
Thanks,
Spaceballs. But
good talk.
So for the parents out there, it's fine. It's totally fine. But it's a little bit like, she's supposed to be a stick in the mud, and I get it. It's a satire, but I think she could have been a little raunchier, a little funnier, and I would have liked it better. Because she's Joan Rivers. She could have been pretty raunchy.
More under her breath.
Yes.
Droid humor would have been pretty funny.
Yeah.
She did stick to the script, but, you know, she's still Joan Rivers.
Yeah.
Princess Vespa is quite the spoiled brat, and she's on the receiving end of most of Mel Brooks' Jewish humor in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's teetering on. He's Jewish, so it's not anti-Semitic, but it's jokes you can't tell if you're not Jewish.
I was saving this for the what do we find that's cringy about this movie, but I'll bring it up now. I think that stuff doesn't land today.
It's definitely not as lighthearted as I think he meant it.
Right. I don't
today.
actually think it's like, I don't mean to clutch my pearls or like, I'm not being political about this. It's just kind of weird. She has like a big nose that they threaten to like give her nose back because she's clearly had a nose job. She's from Druidia and they're like, you don't look Druish. And
yeah, the Druish and Jewish.
I think it's a
brought
little
up a
funny. I just, it falls a little flat. And
Yeah.
kids these days have no idea what's going on with those jokes.
Or like the Jewish princess joke
Right.
that gets made after they've shown her to be such a spoiled
Right,
brat.
right. And again, it's not anti-Semitic at all. It's a little cringy though, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another joke in there that she's not involved in where the nose job and the plastic surgeon bit, but they tell the plastic surgeon when they dismiss him to go out and work on his putts, and it's supposed to be like another dick joke.
Oh, okay.
With Yiddish this time. Yeah, it's jokes that are not for me. How about that? They're for an aging Jewish man.
Yeah, it's older humor. And
Yeah.
it doesn't even land, I think, with our generation anymore for the most part. But I think Princess Vespa was forgettable. And I think that's like kind of the point. To the point where like even, young me, I don't remember having like a crush on her even when I was younger. Like I forgot she was in this movie. The big hype for me was when she went like all Rambo.
She is very good with a machine gun by the end of this movie, which is great.
One of the goons like is shooting at them and shoots her hair, and she's like, he shot my hair, and she grabbed a machine gun and just like goes nuts, and I loved it.
Yeah, I think the actress is doing the best with what she was given, although I actually looked at the script, and the original Princess Vespa is a little bit more well-rounded than, I feel like they stripped out a bunch of lines that would have made her more sympathetic. Like they're just going for full-blown annoying and entitled.
They are
at the beginning of this.
I do think, I don't know too much about this actress, but I think that in the hands, I put in the notes, like paging Catherine O'Hara, in the hands of a comedian, this could have been an amazing role that would have been more memorable and funny.
I think her history, Daphne Zuniga, she was like a scream queen before this.
Really?
Like, she wasn't
that makes sense.
Big in comedies. She was like horror movies were her thing.
And she's not supposed to be like making the jokes in this movie. I get that she's kind of it's deadpan. But even the actress in Airplane, the one that played the girlfriend and the flight attendant, she was deadpan. Like,
she's a comedian.
And
she was great.
Yeah, and she was amazing at the deadpan, and we loved it. And I did not get that here.
I think the other thing that's really hard is being a Star Wars parody, you automatically compare this character to Princess Leia, and they even put the like cinnamon bun headphones on her at one point.
Oh, that's
to
right.
Make fun of the hairstyle, but Princess Leia is such a dynamic character.
Yeah, I didn't need her to be well-rounded, or I didn't even like. She could have still just been like a bitchy princess, but she didn't really have that many zingers. A comedian in this role would have been much better.
Yeah. All right. So that is Princess Vespa and Dot Matrix. Other characters, a lot of the other characters are played by Mel Brooks. Multiple roles. He is playing President Scroob, who gives the order to go steal the air from planet Druidia. He is super icky as the president, like just
he
such
is
a
weird.
cringy icky president with a creepy mustache, and he's doing it on purpose. He knows exactly how slimy he's coming across. I don't know, hits a little too close to home for me these days.
Perhaps
what just came out of our presidential election. But yeah, it's Mel Brooks at his peak sliminess. He knows what he's doing. He's trying to creep us out. He succeeds. Then he's also playing Yogurt, who is parody of Yoda.
Which I just love the name Yogurt. It's funny.
Yogurt.
Yeah.
It does sound funny.
It does.
He pops in, gives some sage advice, sort of teaches the Force Schwartz to Lone Star. Sort of. Also gives him a fortune cookie. Yeah, it's weird. Apparently Mel Brooks was extremely allergic to the gold paint they put all over him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Didn't end well there. And then he's walking around. He's trying to be Yoda, like, petite. So he's playing this whole character on his knees, wearing knee pads. But then he's surrounded himself by the Dink Dinks, who are
they just look like Oompa Loompas to me. I know
those
that they're who they're supposed to be.
Yeah, those are actual little people.
Oh, are they?
And some of them were actually like Ewoks or
really?
various characters from the Star Wars universe. crossed my mind this viewing. I was like, how are these actors reacting to seeing Mel Brooks playing a little person on his knees?
I even didn't even think about the fact that he made himself small like Yoda in it.
Yeah.
Because, Yoda is smaller. So it just sort of made sense. It just kind of makes sense, though, with Yoda.
Yeah.
If Yoda were from Queens, that's what this character is. You get a little bit of the Jewiness in there.
Yeah, he does not have the speaking pattern of Yoda or quite the sage advice.
He's like, here, have a shmia. I mean, that's what he sort of sounds like.
Very into merchandising.
That was my favorite thing about Yogurt is, one, I love the name and the merchandising explanations and the fact that he's like, look, I'm doing it for the merchandise. And he does a whole display. I think that's funny.
That was funny, yeah. And again, I want some of those products. I would absolutely buy the lunchbox and the t-shirt.
Yeah, no, it's funny, and it's even funnier because it's still like that in the year 2024 to almost 2025.
Yeah, it is.
So,
you can probably get all those things on Etsy or something now.
Yeah, so I think the president character is cringy. It's not like kids are offended or teenagers are offended. It's just, it doesn't even land with them. They don't, that's not humor that's really done these days. But they got the Yogurt stuff. I mean, they understood he's supposed to be Yoda and he's like a silly version of Yoda. Yeah. So that was kind of fun.
And that whole scene, so they truck through the desert and they go into this cave and it really looks like the Wizard of Oz.
It does.
A while there. Yeah. They're approaching this big flaming scary thing and then Yogurt walks out and he's tiny and very affable and okay.
Yeah.
Then there's some other just randos I want to call out in this movie. First one is Pizza the Hut, played by Dom DeLuise.
I didn't realize that was Dom DeLuise.
It's the voice. I don't think he's actually in there.
Oh, okay.
But that character, I mean, it's just so disgusting looking. Like Jabba the Hutt in Star Wars is disgusting, but when it's dripping with mozzarella cheese.
This is where like the kid humor comes through. Like my son thought it was funny at the very end of the movie. You get like some sort of news update that Pizza the Hut.
Oh yeah,
he died.
He locked himself in a car and he ate himself.
Yeah, he ate himself, and like Isaac thought that was funny. So
I did too. That still hit for me. Best quick character in this movie. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Then there is a random, it's not a cameo because I think he was just starting out as an actor, but there's a commander who captures all the stunt doubles by accident instead of capturing the actual heroes of this movie. Did you recognize that was Stephen Tobolowsky?
I was looking at him, I was like, is that Ned Ryerson? And then
Ned Ryerson, bing!
I figured you would tell me. So yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, no, I saw him and he's so young looking in this. I barely recognize him, but I was like, oh my God, Stephen Tobolowsky.
It's fantastic.
Amazing. And then my favorite actual cameo is John Hurt pops in to play himself. Like they've got him, John Hurt as John Hurt in the credits.
Love it.
But he's recreating his character Gilbert Kane from Alien at the diner where they're just like sitting around having like a casual meal and then the alien just bursts out of his chest again and you just hear him go, not again.
I know. So I had to I didn't pause the movie, but I had to explain to my kids, I'm like, this is a scene from a movie. And I had to explain the whole alien thing. And then I didn't even realize it was the same actor in it. Because I at first when I was watching, I was like, he kind of looks like the guy too. And then I'm like, oh, he is the guy.
Kind of sounds like him. Oh, he's upset. Not again. Oh, I love that John Hurt did that. I don't even think he got paid. I think he was doing Mel Brooks' salad and was like, yeah, I'll go and sit and pretend to be that again. And then he got there and it was a whole set and they had puppets and he was just like, oh man, they're really going for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the little alien bursts out and top hat and cane sings hello my baby, hello my darling.
Yeah, and it just totally falls flat for kids these days. If kids have not seen Alien, they have no fucking idea what's going on.
They probably haven't grown up with that Warner Brothers cartoon. Remember how the frog was
that's right.
With the top hat and the cane, hello my baby.
Yeah. Yo, that was just what is that? Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the movie. It's such a perfect scene that they're just in a diner at the edge of space. That's where I think the Hitchhiker's Guide is being kind of alluded to.
Yeah, that was funny.
So any random thoughts you want to talk about?
I mean, the one random thought I have for the parents, it's okay to show this to your kids. I mean, yes, it's older humor, and that's both good and bad, because some of it they don't get because the humor is too old. Even Lily wanted me to share on this podcast how old she's
Oh,
like, I don't think kids would understand this humor because I haven't seen some of these movies except for Star Wars.
yeah.
But it's nothing egregious. It's not like, oh my God, you can't show this to your kids kind of stuff. So I just want to, that
Yeah.
would be my one random thought that I'll put out there.
Yeah, no, I agree that I think this movie without Star Wars, if you watched it, you'd just think this was kind of a mediocre action
Yeah.
space movie.
Mhm.
It's really the dick jokes. I think you're right that like it'll go over the heads of most
I think
kids,
it's
but you
okay.
may find yourself explaining a virgin alarm.
You
to
might.
children. And good luck. You had to have that talk at some
Yeah.
point. So things that I like and forgot about, that opening shot of, I think the ship is called the Spaceballs 1, but it's parodying Star Wars, and they do the scroll and they explain the plot of what's going on, but they start flying that ship slowly over the camera the way they do in Star Wars, and it just keeps going and going, and it's kind of the Jaws theme, and it just slowly
Yeah, it is kind of the
slowly
Jaws theme.
keeps repeating. It's the longest ship you've ever seen. It never stops. It's one of those, it gets so tiresome that it starts to get funny again.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that lands for kids.
So-
like, did your kids think that was funny or boring?
So Lily thought it was kind of funny. Again, this is where older and younger kids. I think younger kids might get bored with it, but Lily kind of thought it was funny. She understood that it was awkwardly long, and that made it funny. And then
awkwardly long is a good way to
yeah, and then even as the ship is going by, like all of a sudden it looks like it has old electronic equipment and spark plugs in there. It was noticeable, but I don't think they found it boring. I think they get it.
Oh, good.
They
Okay.
get it. They get it.
One of the other iconic things about this ship is that you can take it up to ludicrous speed or send it all the way to plaid if you want.
Right.
And like, I thought that was, they spent so much time talking about it that I thought that bit was really funny too. But here's where I'm annoyed is stupid Tesla lifted that and made that like the speeds you can go in a Tesla.
I didn't know
You can
that.
Take it to ludicrous speed, or you can take
Oh.
it to plaid. And it's just like, meh, Elon Musk, you ruin everything.
Yeah, no,
So,
that's a ruiner.
yeah.
I did not know that. I'm sad.
Disappointed noises coming from
Yeah,
me
I'm
right
sad
now.
that I know that now.
Yeah,
Fuck you,
just makes
Eon.
those cars even dumber. What do you want to flag for parents or just viewers in general? Things that kind of suck or cringy about this movie?
So we don't even always do this section, things that are sucky or cringy, because sometimes, or it's
Yeah.
a shorter section.
You got a movie like Home Alone.
There's nothing cringy about
That's
that.
perfection.
Perfection.
Go see it.
Agree. I don't mean to be all pearl clutchy, but some of it is just like there's a lot of dad jokes. They're not as smart as the airplane dad jokes. So it's less.
Ooh.
I know. It's less.
That's like when you compare places to Bartertown.
Oh.
You set the floor low, and then you said this movie's worse.
Yeah, pretty much. So, Airplane we discussed in a previous episode is full of a lot of dad jokes. And we even thought some of those sounded kind of like didn't really age that well.
Dated.
I just found some of the humor to be dumber than I remembered. This is not a reason to flag it for kids. It's just I'm flagging it for other adults. And for the cringe stuff, I really didn't like all the Mel Brooks as president stuff with women. It was really kind of gross. I mean, he's in bed with women for some fucking reason. Every female.
He's got the literal Doublemint twins. Remember those?
Oh, is that
commercials
who's
from the
in bed
80s?
with him?
Yeah, the two actresses are literal twins.
It's like every female side character has huge tits and is wearing heels. And it's like enough already. I find it to be annoying. To me, that's lazy humor. It's not even funny. It's lazy. And that's what it is. That's my angry lesbian rant on that.
The one thing I like with the president, because he is creepy, he's slimy, but the final shot of him interacting with, he's got the commanderette, Zircon.
Yeah.
Who is, I mean, she
She's
looks
kinda
like
funny.
that. She looks like the lady from Rocky 4, the blonde. I can't remember her name. Audience, write in. Let me know. We'll do Rocky 4 at some point. There's a moment where she basically pops onto the Zoom screen in his bathroom. And then you just see her check him out and laugh.
Yeah,
And
she
that's
laughs
the
at his
last
dick. It's kind of
interaction he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part felt like just a minor redemption.
You're
'Cause
right.
He's been so shitty to women this whole movie.
You're right.
And her laughing at his dick a little bit, smirking at his dick. She doesn't laugh, but
Yeah, she smirks, which is even worse.
He put that in there to like take a shot at this character in a
and I appreciate
in a way. It doesn't undo all the creepiness that led up to that moment, but that moment I was like, all right, he's letting the lady win.
I just think it's lazy humor. It's like the big tits kind of humor to me is like, you could still make that dumb blonde kind of joke and be really smart and funny. And I just didn't think it was. It was just big tits. That's all it was. It's just my pet peeve on some of this.
There's that shot where they pretend to turn the movie camera off for a moment, and then they cut back in, and the plastic surgeon has like his face down a woman's chest.
And I just think this is what my daughter meant by it's older humor. Like it's humor that's not.
Maybe. Yeah.
It's not cringy necessarily. It's a little cringy, but it's
just not funny.
It's not that funny.
There's other jokes too that aren't sexual, but they just didn't really land. Like there's the scene where they go to rescue Princess Vespa from the prison cell of the Spaceballs 1 ship.
Yeah.
And she's singing in a very alto.
Oh, she is. Yeah, that's right.
She's just singing this prison song. And they're kind of like creeped out because her voice is so deep, but it doesn't really go anywhere.
They're making fun of the fact that she sounds more masculine, I guess, and not as feminine. Which you could make stuff like that funny. I mean, I'm not going to clutch my pearls over that as long as it's just make it funnier.
It wasn't funny.
It wasn't that funny. And I was thinking about it with the tit stuff. What is funny?
Oh, back to
the tits.
Yes.
Back to our first episode of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. They do plenty of funny jokes with Jessica Rabbit and her shapeliness and the booby trap. And that
still
is
funny.
Still funny.
I laughed at that again.
I'm laughing right now at the booby trap joke. So you can make that stuff funny. You can make fun of the voluptuousness and still have it be funny. But here I thought it was lazy. It wasn't.
Yeah, there's no attempt to be clever at all with any of this.
Yeah, exactly. Give me a good cartoon booby trap.
Another thing, it's not cringy, but I could recite a lot of lines from this movie before we just did this viewing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I could not have told you how this movie ended.
Yeah, I or the plot. I had no idea.
This viewing. Yeah. I mean, I remembered it was vaguely Star Wars-y. So like the princess gets captured, rescue the princess. But yeah, if I said, oh, there's a bear in an escape pod and there's a fortune cookie and there's a Planet of the Apes scene.
Right. Yeah, I did not remember
Where's
that.
this going?
Where is that going?
Yeah. And it doesn't really go anywhere. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of
they don't
know how to land the plane.
They don't stick the landing. They don't land the plane.
They still land the plane. It's like we keep going back to airplane. I think
no,
it just didn't go anywhere.
This very farcical scene where the Spaceballs 1 ship, they've hit the like self-destruct button and they have 2 minutes and you just see like chaos and there's clowns running around and I think there's a bearded lady. I can't remember
There is a
what's
bearded lady.
It's just running in circles, but yeah, they don't have a way to end it.
Yeah.
For anyone who hasn't seen this in a long time, Spaceballs 1 does explode at the end, and our 3 main villains did not get off, but the head of the Spaceballs 1, because it transformed itself into the lady with the vacuum cleaner who sucks, and then blows.
Yeah.
But more jokes. The head of it lands on a beach, and then they redo the final scene of like Planet of the Apes, where the apes ride up on horseback and watch them get out of this fake Statue of Liberty looking thing.
I had to explain that to my kids. I was like, there's this movie called Planet of the Apes. I then had to deeply explain like why the scene at the end of of this movie that they realized that they were on Earth the whole time. By the time I explained all this, the scene was over. My kids were very confused.
If you have to explain the joke, it's not funny.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
All right. After dunking on this movie,
let's undunk on it.
Talk about some good things in this, because once again, even though we just said there's idiotic humor all over this thing, there's also some things that are, I'm not going to call them smart, but sort of smart or just unexpected enough that got a laugh out of me. When they're trying to perfect their beaming up the president and it's just getting screwed up.
Yeah.
And then finally he just walks into the adjacent room and you're like, you're just trying to beam him from the next
room. It's kind of funny.
It's a little stupid. I love it.
Yeah, I liked it too. Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. I forgot about that. A lot of the breaking of the fourth wall, I really liked this version. Like there's a scene where they're in the desert having a campfire, and Lone Star's like, we gotta get out of here before the sun comes up, it'll get hot. And it just, the whole screen goes to the bright orange to show you how hot this desert's gonna be. You just hear Barf go, ooh, nice dissolve.
Oh, that was
Like,
funny.
that stupid commentary on the making of the film. Just little things
I
like
actually
that.
laughed at that out loud at that.
I laughed.
I thought that was very funny. Just to circle back though, like, I mean, Dark Helmet is still great.
It's so
He's still great in this,
And
with his costumes.
the costumes are so funny in this. It's just what this movie needed. And then some of the parodies hit harder than others. I still really like their trip to the diner at the end and the aliens parody. Like, fantastic.
And that's fantastic for adults, not necessarily for kids, but it's still fantastic.
So do we want to move to closing arguments?
You know, I have a bummer of a closing argument, so I don't know if you want to go first.
Uh-oh. Well, I saw your text message where you said that you rated Airplane too harshly, and that kind of tipped off what direction you were going to go with this. But
Yeah, I mean,
let's hear it out. Let's hear it out.
yeah, and like, listeners, go back and listen to the Airplane episode, and then I actually did a make amends in our Yom Kippur episode about Airplane.
Yom Kippur episode.
I was a little
She
too
took
harsh
it
on
back.
Airplane. When people ask me about this podcast, they're like, oh, what movies are still good, what movies aren't, what has been the biggest disappointment? And I usually say the biggest disappointment has been Ferris Bueller. And for listeners, go back and listen to that. But I actually think we found a movie disappointment that's equal to Ferris Bueller, or almost equal. That's my messy closing argument, is that I found this to be pretty disappointing based on how much I thought I loved it and how funny I thought the lines were.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you, but I think for me, nostalgia just carried this movie a lot further than it should have. Even in this viewing, just the moments the Pizza the Hut character pops onto screen and just like the chuckle it got out of me, like, oh yeah, that.
Yeah, like I love seeing the Winnebago flying through space. That's funny. Yeah.
I bet this is on par with both of our Pee-wee's Big Adventure experiences rewatching it, because you just couldn't believe that your memory of that movie was so much better than it was, whereas I was letting nostalgia and silliness kind of not win me over, but like it was riding a lot further on that than it should have, perhaps.
Yeah.
So I'm not giving this a strong endorsement, but I definitely got the nostalgia and kind of the warm and fuzzies seeing some of the stuff in this movie.
I mean, that's sort of how I felt about Troop Beverly Hills. I let nostalgia kind of forgive all of the things that you didn't like about that movie.
Yeah, I did not enjoy that.
Yeah, but I think you're wrong. But anyway. So I think we're ready for ratings. So scale of 1 to 10, 1 being garbage, 10 being Princess Bride. We will first rate it for adults, meaning us today, and then we will do a second rating, same scale, for how does it live up for kids today. So adults go first. What you got?
I cheated and looked at my other scores.
I also
for
cheated.
Other movies. I'm actually gonna give this a 6, which
6
is
for adults.
quite above average.
Yeah.
Considering how much we just trashed it. I think the nostalgia.
The Schwartz nostalgia is strong with Amanda.
Yeah, may the nostalgia be with me. Yeah, it brought back a lot of fun memories, and it is the funniest of all the Star Wars movies. So.
I guess it is, technically. All right, so a 6. So I am going a little bit lower. I did also cheat and looked. So because I felt this way about Ferris Bueller, I actually went and looked at my Ferris Bueller rating, and I decided to give it the same one, which is a 4. I considered lower.
Okay.
But I'm going to give it a 4. I think it's well below average. It just isn't as funny as I remember it. I didn't find I didn't find any sort of new layer to it, like we found in other movies that we really like.
Yeah.
There's no new layer. There's no new thing I've picked up on, and it's just not as funny. So a 4, and I'd say a 4 is possibly really all for nostalgia is why I gave it a 4.
Yeah. All right. Well, we also do ratings for kids today watching it, not our memories of watching it as kids, but would a kid today laugh at this? They've probably seen Star Wars, but they probably are not going to get the aliens reference or
at
many
least
of the
not
other
all
movie
of the references
that are tucked in here.
Yeah.
So for this, probably go like a 5.5. Like I think kids might see this on its own and just think it's a silly adventure movie. There is also a Mog in it, so like kind of an extra
Kind of
point
fun.
or half point
Yeah.
for there being a half man, half dog.
5.5 makes sense. So I actually talked to Lily before we started recording, and I decided to let her
Ooh.
rate this for us, for kids, or for me.
What's her rating?
So she rated it a 5, and I think it's down the middle because she noted the older humor, and she felt like some of it just wasn't that funny. Like she could tell that it was probably supposed to be funny, but wasn't. But I think it's still a 5, like meaning it's decent because my kids both still laughed. And I think for younger kids, all the physical humor and honestly, all the dick jokes and nuts jokes are still funny for young boys. Like my son is 7, so he thought that was hilarious. Like,
yeah, this is kind of target audience, like a 7 to 12.
oh yeah.
Right?
And they'll still find it funny. They'll find all the dick jokes and kick them in the nuts jokes funny. So
yeah, yelling suck, suck, suck at a robot in space.
Yeah.
Kind of funny to a 12-year-old.
I mean, in some ways, if I were to average it out for both my kids, I probably would have gone a little higher for kids actually, but I'm sticking with, Lily said 5s, we're going with that. So that's, I don't do math that quickly. Where are we with the total?
We're at a 20.5.
A 20.
Because I had to throw that darn 0.5.
Yeah, you and your 0.5s.
I know.
So that's not the final. So we have the one last question is, does it live up? It's just a yay or nay, and we both have to agree for it to live up. I think I know where we're going, but would you like to tank it, Amanda?
No, I would not like to tank it.
Maybe I'm assuming.
Hold on.
I'm assuming.
So no, I would not like to tank it because I'm assuming you're going to tank it. So I am hedging. I am
no
saying,
backsies.
yes, it lives up only because I know Jess is going to say, no, this does not live up. And that way,
making me the bad guy.
I can just go right up the middle. It's like voting in Massachusetts. I can vote for whoever the hell I want.
Doesn't matter.
It is not going to count in this situation.
Oh, yeah. So it has to be a no for me. I'm going to call that a fake yes from you.
It kind of was a fake yes. There's something so deep in me with the nostalgia that I can't bring myself to say, no, this doesn't live up, even though I think in my gut, I know it really
Yeah,
doesn't. But I'm saying yes, it does, because that way you're the bad guy.
I'm fine being the bad guy because I'm actually surprised. Like, there have been very few movies where I've been like actually kind of shocked that I don't like them and I didn't enjoy watching it again. Raiders of the Lost Ark was a little bit like that for me too. Pee-wee.
Yeah.
Although Raiders, I might have been too harsh, and I love Last Crusade. Oh my God, bros, please stop bothering me about Raiders. Stop. Anyway, so listeners, you may agree, disagree. If you haven't seen this in a movie in a while, I'm going to assume you disagree with this. You can let us know at LiveUpPod on all the socials, at LiveUpPod on Gmail. You could even subscribe and leave a review for us on your platform of choice. Sorry to disappoint everybody, but just know that we're also disappointed.
For listening. The Schwartz was not with us today.
No, it was not.